Students, in this session, I'm going to explain you about the Lineweaver-Burke plot. Before going to explain you about the Lineweaver-Burke plot, I have to explain you about the limitations that are associated with the Michaelis-Menten equation and the rectangular hyperbolic curve. So if we plot in the previous session, it is discussed that by using Michaelis-Menten equation, we can calculate Km and Vmax. Okay, by using the graph, we can calculate Km and Vmax. So how are we going to calculate the Km and Vmax? By using MM equation. We will see how we are going to calculate the Km and Vmax by using the MM equation and its curve. So if we plot a graph of V over S, we are going to have a curve like this, and this is the maximum velocity or Vmax. Half of this value is Vmax by 2 and the substrate concentration corresponding to this Vmax by 2 is going to give us Km value. So this is how by using MM equation we use it to calculate the Km and Vmax value, Km and Vmax values. But the limitation is in the in this equation, okay, the maximum value Vmax is attained, okay, at very infinite Simon level of the substrate concentration. At very high level of the substrate concentration, Vmax is attained. Therefore, we can't accurately calculate the Vmax value. If the Vmax value is not accurate, eventually from the half of the Vmax value, we are going to calculate Km value. Therefore, eventually the Km value will also not be accurate. To overcome all these forms, to overcome all these limitations, this MM equation, the hyperbolic form of the MM equation was transformed to linear form. How is it transformed to linear form? We will see. So here I'm going to write MM equation. According to the MM equation, V is equal to Vmax into S by Km plus S. So if we reciprocal both the LHS and the terms that are present in LHS and RHS, we are going to have 1 over V is equal to Km plus S by Vmax into S. So this in turn is equal to Km by Vmax into 1 over S plus S by Vmax into S. So see, we can cancel these two terms. Therefore, finally we are going to have one equation, and that equation is 1 over V is equal to Km into Vmax, Km by Vmax into 1 over S plus 1 over Vmax. And this equation Okay, this equation is called as LB equation. This equation is called as LB equation or Lineweaver-Burk equation. So this equation is in the form of this equation is in linear form. I mean, this is in the form of the equation that represents a straight line. So the equation that is meant, general equation that is meant for the straight line is y is equal to mx plus c. So see here, this equation is the general equation for the straight line. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು terms ಅನ್ನ compare ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ the y can be compared to 1 over v. M is a constant, so it is equal to km by v max. X is 1 over s, and this 1 over v max corresponding to, in this equation it corresponds to the c. So therefore we can say that this LB equation, Lineweaver-Burk equation, is in the form of a straight line. So if we plot a graph of, here we are going to plot a graph of y over x, that is y is equal to 1 over v and x is equal to 1 over x. We are going to have a curve. If we plot a graph like this, we are going to have a straight line. So in this curve, we are going to plot 1 over v as y-axis and 1 over substrate concentration as x-axis. If we plot 1 over v versus 1 over s, we are going to get an equation that will be in the form, that is in straight line, that is in the form of the straight line. But now we have to calculate the value of the Vmax and Km. How to calculate the Vmax and Km? So just consider this LB equation, that is 1 over V is equal to Km by Vmax into 1 over S plus 1 over Vmax. So if y is equal to 0, y is equal to 0 ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಈ x axis ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ if y is equal to 0, ಸೊ y is 0 ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ y 0 ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳಿ, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಸಮ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ. y is equal to 0 ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾದ್ರೂ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ, y ಯ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ y is equal to 0 ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ y is equal to 0 ಆದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಸೊ here y is equal to 1 over v, ಇದು 0 ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, km by Vmax into 1 over s over 1 over Vmax is equal to, will be equal to 0. So therefore ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಈಗ, Km by Vmax into 1 over s is equal to, yes, is equal to minus 1 over Vmax. So this Vmax and this Vmax can be cancelled. So ಈ ಮೈನಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಈ ಕಡೆ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮೈನಸ್ km into 1 over s is equal to 1. Therefore, okay, km ಮೈನಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಈ ಕಡೆ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ರು ಆಗತ್ತೆ. Let that minus be there only. ಸೊ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, km into 1 over s is equal to minus 1. Therefore km is equal to ಏನು, minus s. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೈನಸ್ s ಅಂದ್ರೆ this is x axis, this is minus 1 over s ಅಂದ್ರೆ minus ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಕೆ ಎಂ ಸಿಕ್ಕೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ವೈ 0 ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಆಗ ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಪೊಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಪೊಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೇನು ಈ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ದಿಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಗಿವ್ಸ್ ಅಸ್ -1/km. ಅದನ್ನ ರೆಸಿಪ್ರೋಕಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೇನ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ km. ಸೊ ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ಲಿ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ನಮಗೇನ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಇಕ್ವೇಶನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ km ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಸಿಕ್ಕೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ಲಿ ಇಫ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಟು 0, ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಇಕ್ವೇಶನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಟು 0 ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಒನ್ಸ್ ಅಗೇನ್, ಐ ಆಮ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಮೈಕೆಲ್ ಎಲ್ ಬಿ ಇಕ್ವೇಶನ್ ವಿ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ 1/. ಸೊ once again I am writing the LB equation, that is 1/v is equal to km by v max into 1/s plus 1/v max. So therefore if x is equal to 0, ಈ ಈಕ್ವೇಶನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ x ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ್ದಾಗುತ್ತೆ, 1/s. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಹೇಳಿದೆ y is equal to mx plus c ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ದ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಫ್ x ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು x ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದೀವಿ, 1/s. x 0 ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಈ ಎಂಟೈರ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಕೂಡ 0 ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. therefore 1/v is equal to 1/v max. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ whenever if x is equal to 0, ಈ ಎಲ್ ಬಿ ಕರ್ವ್ ನ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಎಲ್ ಬಿ ಪ್ಲಾಟ್, x is equal to 0 ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಲೈನ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ y ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಟಚ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೋ then x is equal to 0, and at that point we are going to have, ಈ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಏನ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕೋಗುತ್ತೆ, 1/v max ಸಿಕ್ಕತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ರೆಸಿಪ್ರೋಕಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಏನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, v max ಸಿಕ್ಕತ್ತೆ. So these values are accurate when compared to those which are going to be obtained by using Michaelis-Menten plot or rectangular hyperbolic curve. So this is how by using LB equation and LB plot we can calculate. This is how by using these values we can calculate we can calculate Km value and Vmax values. So students, this is about the LB equation, Lineweaver-Burk plot or Lineweaver-Burk equation. So this is about the LB plot and LB equation. So what are its advantages ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಈ LB equation ಇನ ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜ್ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, we can calculate the Km and Vmax values accurately. Accuracy is more when compared to that obtained from the rectangular hyperbolic curve. The second advantage of this LB equation is we can identify the type of enzyme inhibition by using this LB plot. Okay, that we will study later. So here we can identify the inhibition pattern. The enzyme activity is inhibited and that is going to be identified by using this LB equations and LB plot. So that's all about the Lineweaver-Burk plot and Lineweaver-Burk equation.